This is the Mentors and Moguls Podcast with Heather R. Stone.
Well, good evening. Nice to see everybody here. Thank you for coming. We have a very fun and exciting and interactive night for you. I want to read the first few lines of my esteemed guest's bio. She's got quite an impressive bio, but we're going to work it into the entire night rather than boring you with the novel that she has accomplished. In case you don't know who I am, I'm Heather Stone. I'm the host of the Mentors and Moguls Podcast. And the whole purpose of the Mentors and Moguls Podcast is basically to bring you mentors, bring you moguls, bring you successful people from all walks of life, and have you listen to their stories, but more importantly, have you glean some of the best secrets, find out what makes them tick, how they get over challenges, and basically, why are they successful? And success doesn't mean money. It means successful in anything that they choose to do. And most of our guests are very humble, they're very quiet, they're not on the cover of magazines. We do have a lot of guests who are quite infamous, of course. But there are so many unsung heroes, and especially very strong women that have really accomplished and contributed and made an impact in this world. And I thought it was important that I wanted to shine a light on these women and their work, and really share with you the strength that they have, and hopefully you'll see the strength that you have within your own selves, because we all have it, no matter what our background is. So, please join me for a warm welcome with my guest, the soul gardener, Austyn Wells. Austyn is a soul gardener. We're going to have a conversation about what that actually means. She is very intuitive, and we'll get into that story. And she, of course, is a medium. If you've learned anything about her, she's going to share a few things. Austyn, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. There are many decisions that you can make in your life to be someplace, to listen to someone, to spend your precious time someplace. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. My hope for tonight is to connect with each one of you in a heart-centered manner, to talk about what is the soul, because I think it's such a gorgeous topic and not a word that I think has a tangible definition for everybody. Talk about how there's a natural duality within all of us that is such an invitation for self-love. And I think that's why we have this internal contrast within ourselves. I'm going to talk about that. And we're going to talk and do our little interview, and then I get to spend some time connecting with your loved ones and pets, because I had a little pet come in a little bit ago. So we're going to begin with my saying, we're going to have a soul conversation. So I love this quote. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. And I love that quote, first of all, because it's from The Little Prince, which is such a magical book to begin with. But it is so true. We live in a world that is highly visual. And what is invisible, more or less, the space between us, the energy between us, which is really the truth of our souls, is just not something that we nurture, which then invites us into a conversation of what is the soul. So we begin our world by coming into a womb. And you can think of a womb much similarly to, so that's the physical space that we occupy with an umbilical cord that connects us to our mother. We come in connected. And in that space, that is our space for this physical body to create all the magic and the miracle that then allows our soul to animate. So we are first and foremost energy that I believe is divine intelligence that then distills into each one of us into this corporeal form and becomes our authentic representation of how you grab from that divine intelligence and give it to this world. And I promise you, each and every one of you is a one-of-a-kind miracle. And I really mean that. I sit with people in seasons and moments of deep darkness, and in the most deep adversity is this strength and this light. So we have that womb that we come into. So let's switch that idea, and you can progress the slides if you wouldn't mind. So that's when we first come in and being connected, and then this is our, what I call the soul space. You can look at it as your energy field. And if this seems kind of, hopefully not didactic, but I really want to have all of us in the same place as far as our awareness goes. So the energy field that we have around us is measurable. It is, it's corroborable, but we just don't see it. But essentially, it's the invisible landscape of our soul. And it is ours to nurture, and I wish that there was more education about it for people when they were children and learning energy management. So let's just start with something to really get us into that relationship between the part of us we can see and the part of us we can't see. So everybody go ahead and close your eyes. And let's take a collective breath together. So take a nice deep breath in and hold for just a second and exhale. And now all I want you to do is find in the glorious landscape of your body, where is the most amount of energy? So do a scan. You can start at your feet. So once you find where that place is, I just want you to sit with the rhythm of your own energy. Imagine that you had a glow-in-the-dark crayon and you were in a dark room and you gave it to the energy and it could draw itself. So you could see it might be spinning, it might be going up and down, it could be bouncy, it could be static, it could feel compressed, it could feel expansive. But I just want you to just honor that energy, because right now, wherever that energy is, whether it's in your head or in your heart or in your stomach, it's where your soul is most condensed right now. So just thank it for being there. Now take another deep breath in. And as you exhale, release the awareness of that. And now I want you to find the quietest place in your body. Where is it? Sometimes it's people's toes, it's an elbow. These poor places we don't visit. And now I want you to enter into that space with the same curiosity. And sometimes finding that place that's really quiet in us is really grounding. And grounding is essentially just allowing your soul to connect with the rate of the earth, which is slower and easier for our bodies to take in. So now that you have an awareness of that space, I want you to imagine being able to send a ping pong ball from the place that's quietest to the place that's most active. And then you send the ball back from the place that's most active to the place that's quieter. And just create a loop going from that quiet place to the loud space, and quiet space to loud space, and quiet space to loud space. And just let yourself feel that interchange. Almost like a heartbeat. It might even start rhythmically repeating your heart. Now take a nice deep breath in and exhale. And now pull your awareness, your witnessing to both places, and you may find that the place that's quieter is a little bit more activated, and the place that was louder is a little bit calmer. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. How many people had a witnessing of that it felt like it actually, you achieved a different level of maybe balance, you could call it? It's a great technique to do if you find, because a lot of our energies these days is very cerebral, so it's just a simple technique. Nature does that to us. Nature holds that energy of relaxation and ease, and that's one of the reasons why it's so rejuvenative for our souls to go into nature. So, back to the soul. Okay, so we have the soul space, we have all this energy, and then push again the thing. So you'll see this is kind of how the energy of our energy field works. It's constantly rotating around us. It's absorbing energy and it's emitting energy. It's always in conversation with our environment, which is why sometimes you can walk into a room that you haven't been in before and all of a sudden you'll think, oh my God, it's really uncomfortable in here. What you're picking up on is you're receiving energy, okay? So the chakras are the way that energy that circulates around us then gets processed inside of us. Then that goes to our spinal cord with our nervous system, and then that comes up to the brain, and that's actually how a medium is able to connect with the soul of another. They essentially blend with us, and then that energy allows us to have shared memory. So that's how we kind of come up with all that. Okay. So the duality of the soul is there's the finite self, and the finite self is the part of us that's our human being. So we are in the physical body and the material world. We have physical senses. It's our ego, our personality, and our emotions. And it also creates our awareness of only ourself. And it also makes us aware, because we're physical and everything that's physical that dies, it gives us a finite perspective of life. More or less, we're really aware of the fact that death happens. And as you get older, we're really aware of the fact that death happens more frequently, okay? So in contrast, we have the finite self, but we also have the infinite self. Now the infinite self, in the way that the finite self has all of those qualities, there are opposite qualities in the infinite self. So the infinite self, whereas we have a physical body, in the infinite self, we have our spiritual body. And by that, I mean, whereas we have a physical body, then we have an energy body. So the infinite self is energy, the finite self is physical. Where we have physical senses, we have soul senses. Soul senses are our ability to perceive energy. And everyone here perceives energy in one way or another. Some people are more visual in the way, you'll be talking about something. If I say the word strawberry, most of you have a visual of strawberry in your head. Some of you might be able to smell the strawberry, or you might be able to taste it actually, but those are memory senses, but they actually blend with the soul senses. Then as we have our ego, our personality, and our emotions, those are the reality of living in the physical body, but the energetic universe is what that infinite self is part of. And that's completely different because it's not this contained being, it's a connectedness to all. Then we are, instead of just that singular individual, we are part of a greater distilling of infinite intelligence, which is a really hard one to wrap our heads around. And that is how people explain God, or any way that you look at that source energy, because I always want to be respectful to the people and what they believe, okay? And then, as opposed to a single consciousness and being aware of ourselves, that infinite self is collective consciousness. So that means there's an awareness of everything that is around you. So there's absolutely no disconnection. And then finally, as opposed to the finite perspective, the infinite self knows that everything goes on forever, which we do not have an easy time understanding eternity. So with those two belief systems equally come, with those two ideas come a belief system that we subscribe to that can limit our existence a little bit. Okay, so the finite self beliefs are, I am mortal, I'm an individual, I control my life. That's the one where we get into a little bit of sticky wicket. And the last one is that life happens to me. That brings us into victim consciousness, that disempowers us, that separates us, and that activates our fear, our shame, our guilt, and our worry. And it's so important that we know when we're in our finite self, because what you need to help you in that moment is the spiritual perspective, and that's why people come to me. It's because all I'm doing is representing the infinite self of their infinite self, and that consciousness that they can't quite grab onto. So we go from I'm mortal to I'm immortal. I am individual to I am that I am. I'm a collective part of the universe. That's a huge topic and a thing to wrap your head around, but there's so much truth with it. I control my life to I co-create my life. What do I mean by that? I have complete confidence that water is amazing in Aspen. Beyond that, co-creation means that Dr. Doris, for example, and I hope you all are brilliant and intelligent enough to show up tomorrow night because the woman is insanely gifted and a miracle in physical form. Co-creating means the people that we are most inspired by in this world are people who have authenticated, who have moved past the worry and the fear about what other people think, and they've gotten to a point where their passion is the only thing that they can dedicate themselves to because they know it's why they're here. The only way we get to our passion is by moving past all of our stories, all of the stuff that holds us to the identity of who we are, and that includes roles, like we are a mother, we're a teacher, we're this, we're that, but even in those it's confining. But when you get in that place where you start this communication with the universe, the beauty of it is you start understanding you're just a conduit of communication. The humility that comes with that moment is extraordinary. And if there's any reason that you should look at a spiritual growth and meditation is just to realize you're not the only thinker. Don't you want to get on board and find out like what this amazing collective consciousness of eternity has in store for you to bring into this world? Talk about a compelling invitation, right? And I get to see that through the ancestors coming through and giving you a piece of the puzzle that you can't figure out on your own or something that they didn't feel was necessary when they were here. Then the final thing is, and this is such a huge shift, we go from life happens to me to life happens for me. And then you're in right relationship. You're actually in relationship with your life. But the benefit of that idea is, if it happens for me, then every single thing that happens, even your car getting broken into or someone dying out of context, there's a reason for someone whose child has taken their own life. That's really probably the worst thing, not the worst thing, but I would highly suggest not ever saying that to someone who's experienced a loss that's been sudden. I don't know if there's a reason for it. That means there's logic to it. I don't know about that. But are there blessings that come out of it? Is there a whole change in the person's lifestyle and people that they were naturally aligned to, they realize really aren't supportive? They aren't as deep as they need in that moment. It increases people's spirituality. So loss is necessary for us also to realize how blessed we are. So the hope is that the finite self and the infinite self do this little dance. Now that might look familiar to you because of the yin-yang sign, because the beauty of it is it's these, you're always up, one part's down, one part's in light, one part's in dark. And it's really funny because we have this, we ask each other, how are you? It's such a, probably most people don't really want to know how you are, right? If you've got great friends, yes. But I mean, you're like, we're so conditioned to go, oh, I'm fine. Yeah? The reality is parts of you are really surviving and parts of you probably are absolutely just going, what the hell is going on in my life, right? So to always just give yourself credit to know that if that finite self needs your love, that finite self, that part of you that doesn't know, that part of you that is connected to the things that are unconscious that you're trying to bring into consciousness, that's where self-love comes in. Because Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. How can I love you if I don't know the fullness of love for myself? We are in a world right now, and I'm not trying to be on a soapbox. I'm sitting in a really comfy turning chair. We are being called right now spiritually.
Yes.
We are living in a world right now that is saying, look how separate we are. Now, that doesn't mean we get more cleaving to what we are comfortable with. If we go back to that simple premise that Jesus gave us, Jesus was a brilliant master teacher, we have to figure out how to love what we don't understand, what we don't agree with. Because it's not love if we don't connect. So I thank you for letting me talk a little bit about some of the epiphanies that have come to me from my work. But the soul is a really deep, important value of you. No one else is going to figure it out for you. It's yours. So embrace the parts of you that are awkward and maybe not something you want on parade. But it's you. And there's a way that you bring love into this world and you bring guidance into this world that's so different from what you do. So be bold, be you. Don't worry about what other people think so much, unless they're people that understand what a blessing you are.
Many questions for you. So, a lot of people in this room may or may not quite understand why some people are more gifted or tuned in this kind of thing. I'm going to leave it that broad.
Okay. So, this lovely lady here that many of you may not know has climbed Kilimanjaro, base camp of Everest, and is currently training for a top secret mission next year, which I cannot believe this woman is wrapping her head around. Okay?
It's not where I was going.
I know, but we're connected.
Okay.
We're going to come back to that often.
Okay.
So in that idea, I could not do that at this moment, but you've trained for it. You have focused on it. It was your intention to develop it. I do not look at what I do as a gift. I look at it as the gift the universe has given me, but I don't see it as anything that anybody is incapable of doing. In fact, I teach people across the country and other places to connect to their loved ones because it's too much fun not to. And you can turn down the volume on the ones you don't want to connect to so much. But it's not something that is who hasn't had an intuitive moment in the room?
Right.
Okay.
Right. There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
So, a question that a lot of people really ask all the time is, what are those departed loved ones trying to communicate with us? Why do they insist on communicating with us?
There's lots of different reasons depending on who comes through. Sometimes it's just love. Right? I like to call my work soul conversations because it just feels like a reunion sometimes. It's just like a whole bunch of people getting together and having a party. Which is why they'll tell you, oh my God, everybody got together. Because when our energy is really big like that, it's fun for them to connect to that. They see you in your joy, not in your suffering so much. So, they come through, I would say curative is all, so we go to a mediumship sitting. Finite self, give it to me, you gotta believe in this, you gotta give me the facts, I gotta understand it, I don't believe in this, I have no corroborable evidence. The infinite part of you is like, oh, hi. So our finite self needs healing, always. And the spirit world is always looking for that. So the medium's job is twofold. We will give you enough corroborable evidence that you know who I'm talking to is who I'm talking to, but then the other part of it is they just want you to lighten up. They want you to, and I don't mean that in a derogatory manner, please, I have so much respect for everybody. It's really in the fact that we are just mired by our suffering. And so much of the external world loves to talk about what's dramatic in the world, instead of just all the, I don't want to say sunshine and butterflies, but gosh, you know, it just, they just want us to lighten up.
Thank you, Austyn. Do you understand the black and white dog?
She was black and gray.
Okay. Okay, and would you understand the connection with like a border collie? Like she's medium sized.
She was
okay.
smaller for her breed.
Okay. Kind of a sassy dog. Totally, you have to be so mindful of like food on the ground because the dog will find anything, anywhere.
She would go after anyone who would go for the food that was on the ground.
Yes, okay. But I mean, and the other thing is that I noticed is she's super territorial.
Very
Like
much so.
she barks at crazy things too. Almost like she could get set off by a plane or she could get set off by like crazy things in the air. What I love with her coming in is she's super playful, but she's a very specific soul. It feels like when she was part of your life, and let me just qualify this by saying, I know Sasha because she's connected to Heather, but I haven't had a conversation with her about this dog, so you know that this is an organic moment. As she comes in though, I know that she saw you, and she was both of your dogs, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the dog, you got the dog after you guys got together, correct?
No, Sky had her prior to
Sky
me
had her
coming
first.
in, but we did just recently get a puppy since she passed.
Okay, good, all right. So the main thing that she wants to just reiterate is the fact that she loves the puppy. The puppy's totally different, and she's a little annoyed that the puppy is so great. Because she like ran in one lane, right, and the other dog, but she also talks about the healing opportunity of losing the dog. Because you and Skylar, you talk really easily about things, but one of the sweet things is that she's highlighting that Sky doesn't always like divulge his feelings, and that he doesn't always say what's on his mind. And that the dog is thanking you for being incredibly sensitive to how important it was, and also how important it was for you to get another puppy, to find the replacement. So, perfect example of love, perfect example of being incredibly aware of your partner's needs, because the other thing I'll just make mention of is she has a little baby, so they're already dealing with that. So like, can you imagine having an infant and going, hey, let's get a puppy? You know, like it's like, are you kidding me? So there's a little bit of that in it. And so, and this is information that came to me earlier, but I know it already, so I have to claim it, may I say publicly. So this little one just found out she's pregnant yesterday. Isn't that fun? And she's gonna have a little girl, and all I wanna say is she's gonna be really like a thing. I just feel like she's going to, like the word that she's gonna be definite. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, I think it's an amazing thing. But she is going to be very certain. And that's why your dog is talking about her, because it's like, and this is going to sound funny, but your dog was a very distinct little personality. And so what's fun about it is like she's going to have a similar kind of feeling. And that will be somewhat familiar to Skylar.
Yeah.
But also, she's going to be just damn funny. But I love your dog. And it's such a great example because some pets, not all dogs are the same at all. Because didn't your dog like show its teeth sometimes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a dog I would normally go like, nice dog. So, so I just want to say that. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to connect now, or I have coming forth to join me a young man. And I'm aware of this young man having, I love his hair. It kind of has its own kind of thing going on. It's not, meticulous. It's just kind of wavy and there. As I get to know this young man a little bit more, I'm aware that he is responsible for his own passing. I feel it was probably getting into different drugs. But what I want to celebrate about him is that he's very cool. He's not a hyper personality. He's a really deep, lovely soul. And as I'm connecting him to the group, I feel like I'm connecting with, I feel like I'm over here somewhere. So would someone in this vicinity understand a young man in spirit who crossed himself over? And it feels like a sun. Okay, in this group, right over here, this could equally be someone that you are magnificently close to who lost their son because of a drug addiction. And you don't have any connection with a friend of yours, a female friend of yours whose son, it would have been touted as committing suicide.
Yeah,
Okay.
but not because of drugs.
Okay, but would you understand him having kind of, so did you know this young man well?
I didn't know him really well, I know his mom really
You know his mom really well, okay. But you visually saw him, correct? Okay, would you understand the description I said about his hair, that it's not super meticulous, it's kind of wild and
Yeah.
whatever? Only because he's standing like with you right now. So there are opportunities always for the spirit world to get a message to someone else, okay? So are you comfortable with me continuing? Thank you very much. Okay. As I connect with this young man, I know his mother is phenomenal. His mother is one of the most heart-centered, loving, kind, giving human beings on the planet. He gives me the impression that nobody saw this coming at all. And I also feel like it's kind of like wrong place, wrong time is part of it. So it's not something, so the drug thing, I don't know if he was around, if there was something where there's something with him being connected with drugs somehow or around people that were, and him kind of making a separation from it. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you a little bit more, but...
Don't, just,
Okay, yeah.
yes or no's are fine because it helps me.
It's complicated, it's a very different story than we usually hear from...
Okay,
And
okay.
yeah.
Then let me continue
Drugs were a
with...
part of it in a very different way.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So in the context that it connects, take it, okay? But I like this young man. He's kind of funky. He's not everybody's cup of tea. He doesn't fit in with everybody, and he's kind of a loner, which is why I'm really drawn to him, because a lot of times when mediums do demonstration, these really bold souls come forward. I love it when these guys do. But I also know that he had a close relationship with his mom. And I know that she's devastated by this. So here's another illustration of love. So he's really smart. So there's nothing about this that logically makes sense because he knows better or knew better, you know. But the feeling of it is that there is an event that he takes so personally that it separates him, and then that leads to this action of his taking his life. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now, in retrospect, he consciously has the awareness that that was like not the right idea. But I think there was an element of his soul that was devastated, emotionally confused, and he realizes that his mother was the perfect resource for him. And one of the biggest questions she's had since he passed is, why didn't he come to me? And I want you to communicate, please, to this sweet, beautiful friend of yours, that this young man was so lost in his own agony and frustration and suffering and embarrassment. Embarrassment is part of what that scenario was for some reason for him. That he really needs her to understand that he understands how much he stopped their world. Because your friend is so philanthropic. She's amazing. I mean, she should, I wish she would be, I hope we all meet someone like her caliber, because she's also one of those women that will always get through anything. But what I think, she's so accustomed to being there for other people, that I think the interesting thing about this scenario happening is it opened her soul to having more connections with people. And she's asked for help, which is something normally I don't think she'd do very often. So again, not a reason for it happening, but it definitely was part of the learning part of it. But I love this young man.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Mentors and Moguls Podcast. We hope you've been inspired by the incredible stories and wisdom shared by our esteemed guest. If you've enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review, and share it with others that may benefit from the valuable insights shared here. Until next time, stay inspired, stay motivated, and keep making your mark in the world.